toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Sounds like a party.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And today, marks show number 250.
That is halfway to 300, sir.
Yes, it is.
I did the math. It works out.
I'm very. We've actually made it. Now I know we got criticized for saying at a certain point, I don't know, 100 shows or whatever, that nobody had stepped in and stopped us yet. But seriously, we're at show number 250 and nobody has tried to stop us.
That's pretty nice.
That's unbelievable. It is so great to be here and talk about craft beer, fine spirits, hand-rolled cigars, and wine today. Now, we're not nearly as good, I think, with wine in terms of knowing anything about it.
I know when you look at me and you look at the shirt I'm wearing today, you probably think that guy is a wine aficionado.
Exactly. It just screams. It just screams. Holding the glass in a genteel fashion, doesn't it?
The pinky's out.
Yeah, the pinky's out. But fortunately, here at Smokin' and Toastin', we've been lucky enough to surround ourselves with some people who do know a thing or two, and we call them our staff of experts, even though we don't compensate them in any way, shape, or form. And our resident wine expert is Marc Borel, who is back here with us today. This is what your third, fourth, fifth appearance on the show?
I lost count at 250.
Okay, very good. Well, we're always happy to have Marc, and anytime we talk wine, we really have to have him, because my wine knowledge is just, so basic.
I have enough hobbies in my life to where I just don't always have room for that. That's why I love having someone that I can just ask.
Right.
Like, you know what? I need something that fits this profile, and I do love wine. It's delicious, but I just don't know much about it.
You mentioned before the show that the last time Marc was here and he brought in some Texas wines, and you actually went out to one of the wineries, right?
When me and my wife went out to Fredericksburg, one of the wines you brought was a rosé from Lost Draw.
Yeah.
And we, on the last day before we left Fredericksburg, we went and sought them out and sat down and just had an absolutely wonderful time trying all of them. And the lady that was doing the tasting was just so informative.
They do such a great job.
Yeah, we had such a great time.
And that wine is really, really pretty, too.
And we caught it at such a beautifully not too busy time to where, they just were super relaxed, spent lots of time with us. It was great. And it's a great place, too.
Mm-hmm.
So really pretty patio area.
Yeah, it's lovely out there.
Well, Marc's brought along some wines. He said, what's the theme of the show? And I said, well, we could do a lot of different things, but one of them that I tossed out was, how about just, wines for fall? Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of what you're looking ahead. Here in Texas, it's still nice and warm. But some places have already started to cool off a little bit.
It'll still be nice and warm until, December.
Yeah, I could have brought that rosé back again. It would have been perfectly fine.
The rosé was fantastic, by the way.
But, it is nice to begin to think about those cooler temperatures. I mean, Oktoberfest beers are coming out, so that always makes me feel like it's eventually going to get cooler, and in the meantime, I'll enjoy this lovely beer. But it's kind of the same way with thinking about wines for fall. It's. I mean, I almost don't want to say this out loud, but we're going to blink and it's going to be the holidays.
Yeah.
They're going to be.
It happens so fast.
They're going to be on top of us before you know
We're
it.
on the downhill side of summer, and it goes by quickly.
Make your reservations now.
I went into Target. I went into Target to try to buy like a cushion for one of my chairs on the patio.
Gone.
Nothing like that there at all. They do have Christmas decorations, though.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
So, yeah, but that's just the way that retail cycle works. So if they can have Christmas decorations up, and damn it, we can talk about wines for the fall.
That's right.
And so that's what we're going to do today. And really looking forward to it. Plus, in a rare turn of events, Ian has brought today's beers. I'm usually the one that brings in the beers.
Beware.
But Ian has brought today's beers, and I was, putting them into the show notes, getting ready for the show, and I realized that one of them's under 5%. So I almost texted you and said, "Are you okay?"
So today's beers are brought to you by my friends and family from Michigan.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an all Michigan.
They're all
beer
Michigan,
edition. Yes.
and so my sister started dating a guy who's from Michigan, and his family is from that area and everything. And my parents were from Michigan, so I have a lot of family up in the area. So they went out to visit his family and visited a bunch of my extended family up there, and especially one of my cousins, Marc, and Mike, my sister's now fiance. He proposed while they were up there.
Ah, congratulations!
And she said yes, obviously. Otherwise, he'd be the ex
fiance, the ex boyfriend.
That would be
ex-boyfriend.
awkward.
But so my now fiance Mike and my cousin Marc conspired to make sure I had a few beers to bring on the show that were top notch.
Well, yeah, I was going to say we've had, I think, one or two of these breweries. We've had some of their beers before on the show, and I know we've had the first one because it's Jolly Pumpkin Artisan
we've
Ales.
had Jolly Pumpkin, and all their beers that we've had have been great.
And interestingly enough, they do a lot more than just pumpkin beers.
Yeah, well, the name of it is Jolly Pumpkin, but
yeah.
they do other beers. And we did, I think our first one we tried from them was actually a pumpkin.
Yeah, I think we did it around like Halloween, Thanksgiving when we did some pumpkin ales. But this one is not a pumpkin ale at all. It is from Jolly Pumpkin Artisan Ales, but it's their Calabaza Blanca. It's a wheat beer.
Yes.
So that's the one that's under 5. I think it's 4.5%.
I know, it's weird,
I looked it up, and I was like, who are you and what have you done with the
strange about this.
You also brought in from Old Nation Brewing Company, and these guys are good, man. This is a great brewery out of Williamston, Michigan. We'll have their new Orthodox M43. It's a New England IPA. So
I brought that.
I'll be looking forward to that.
I figure you'd like the IPA side.
And then Great Turtle Brewery from Mackinac Island, Michigan.
Mackinac Island. So that's one.
Say it again, because
Mackinac.
Mackinac. So you don't pronounce that last C.
Right. And that's one that you can only get at the brewery.
So this is their Hoban Street Stout.
Yes.
Am I saying Hoban right?
Hoban.
Hoban. Yeah. All right. I know they say everything with that, sort of Wisconsin accent up there.
When you go park the car.
And well, no, that's
There's
Boston.
a little bit of that going on up there.
Is there? Yeah, I'm talking about like when you watch Fargo, like that kind of accent.
That's pretty far out.
Yeah, I can't do. I'm not going to attempt to do that one though, because I'll just mess that right up. Anyway, it's a Hoban Street Stout. It looks delicious. It's a very interesting package, and Great Turtle Brewery. I don't think I've ever had anything from those guys. So, so looking forward to that. So, we also have a lot of different things to talk about. I got a hold of a new list that I thought was very interesting. I wanted to share because with us being based here in Texas, but with people listening to the show from all over.
Bruce Stark pointed out we do have fans in Michigan.
Yeah, I know we do because Bruce is from there, and we've had several other Michigan people chime in on the show notes as well. But the New England area. Boston, Rhode Island, Maine. That's always been very near and dear to my heart because I lived in Boston for 7 years, and I love. That was actually where, to be totally honest, that was where I fell in love with craft beer, with Harpoon Brewery and some of the Magic Hat out of Vermont, some of the great breweries up there. Well, I ran across an article I thought we should share. It's 6 New England breweries you may not know about, but probably should. And I glanced at the list. I don't know about any of these, so I thought that would be exciting to share.
I brought a list myself.
It's
a list of breweries that don't make IPAs in the United States, and there's nobody on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a very short list, isn't it? Well, not all of these are IPA-centric, so I think you'll enjoy the list. We also have an interesting list that came out last Friday from Cigar Aficionado, and we do the show on Thursdays. So, and it was about 15 great cigars under $8 for your Labor Day weekend.
Wow.
I was like, well, okay, it's too late for us to share it for Labor Day weekend. But I looked at the list; it's pretty interesting. So we'll do 15 great cigars for under $8 for any time you freaking want to.
Right. You should have last week.
That's right. That's right. We're not going to penalize you for being late. So all of that plus wine, drinking news today. Our drinking news teaser headline is. Park wherever you like, sir.
I love it already.
All right, so we'll look forward to that, and we got a lot of wine to taste. Marc has already poured these, so sitting to my right are 3.
I know this looks so nice.
Beautifully poured glasses of wine.
I'm thirsty,
and we'll.
He's
get
like,
to
let's
that.
get to it, guys.
We'll get to that shortly. First of all, though, as I love to do about this time every show, Ian, I thought I'd check in and see if you'd smoked anything interesting this week.
I did. So the last time we were at Casa de Monte Cristo together, they recommended a cigar, and you actually did a review on it. It was the Avo Syncro Caribe.
Yes, and I really liked it, which was great because the last couple of Avos that I'd been less excited about. So I was glad to get back on the winning
Just
track.
a little history. Avo Uvezian is a cigar maker and also a pianist and composer,
great jazz composer.
Fantastic, yes. So I just wanted to let you know there might be some music-centric terms in here.
Okay, fair enough.
So first off, this was a Toro 6x52 is the one I had. Its composition is wrapper is Dominican, the binder is Ecuadorian, the filler is Dominican and Nicaraguan. The appearance, light brown wrapper, somewhat veiny, firm overall, leathery feel on the to the touch. The pre-light sniff, classic tobacco, barnyard, a little bit of coffee on it. The pre-light draw, I used a punch. I had a light draw on it. I have very savory tobacco and wood, sweetness, and just a kiss of mint is what I kind of detected on that. So now we start with the cigar.
Yeah.
The intro of the cigar. Tangy, rich earth and pepper backed by cedar retrohale's fresh cut lumber.
And this is when you had lit it, or is this is
This is the initial light. It's now known as the intro.
the intro? Okay, I like it.
The first third of the cigar, now known as the chorus,
Okay,
is wood and richer because in a jazz tune you have the chorus section, which is basically the song form. So it's not like a verse and chorus like a pop song most of the time.
right.
So
They go
we're going jazz
Go right to
composition
the
here.
chorus. I got it.
So
I got it.
the chorus is wood, rich earth set. Chorus is wood and rich earth set the tone, backed by coffee, sweet dark fruit. Retrohale is wood and pepper with a sweet hint of cocoa in the back. Flaky ash, great burn. Then we get to the bridge. That's the next section.
In your head, when you got there, did you hear Timbaland saying, "Take it to the bridge"? Just wondering.
Then we get to the bridge, or the second third of the cigar. Sweeter flavors take over here with distinctive fruity notes. Cedar remains central. Nut, milk chocolate, and a slight coffee develop. Hint of raisin bread on the finish. Retrohale is nutty and chocolate. Flaky ash, perfect burn. And that brings us all the way to the coda.
Okay.
Which is the end if you don't speak music. Raisin bread and chocolate become more prominent. Sweet fruit undertones remain and interplay pleasantly with the nutty and coffee notes. Retrohale is cedar, nutty, and mocha. Price to quality on this is a $12 cigar. Between 12 and 13, something like that. It's kind of expensive. I think there are quite a few Avos that are in that price range, too. So
Well, those upper end ones that have come out, yeah.
So that's pretty normal for them. Price to quality at $12 to $13. I gave it a 6. It was fantastic.
I think that's what I gave it as well.
Yeah,
And
this was a great
myself.
smoke. The construction was fantastic, and I didn't want to give it up. I didn't take pictures all the way down to like burning my fingers, but I almost burnt my fingers with this one.
When you and I, it was a couple of weeks ago when you and I met before the show and had a cigar there in the lounge at Casa, and that was the one that I smoked. And I remember saying to you, "This is really good."
It's
You know,
good.
it was just a very pleasant surprise to see Avo kind of back on track.
Even at
as far
that
as I
price,
was
I'll go
concerned.
back and buy a couple more to toss in the humidor.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of went a different.
I have a question.
Yes.
You gave it a 6 out of 10, I assume.
Yes.
But you're waxing poetically about how much you enjoyed this cigar.
Well, let's talk about our price to quality scale then.
Yeah.
So the way the price to quality scale is, we have a scale of 1 to 10, but 5 is you get exactly what you pay for.
Okay.
So it's a sliding kind of scale. It's not just this is scores this much, but and it's very dependent because you can smoke lots of cigars that are great at a cheaper price, or you can smoke more expensive cigars that are great, but you kind of expect that when you pay $15 or $20 for a cigar. It better be good, right?
Right.
So it's one of those scales that I kind of came up with years ago, where if you're getting what you pay for, you get a 5. If you think to yourself, I wish I'd have paid a little less for this, or it's not quite living up to what I paid, then you get lower than 5. But if it punches above its weight class and is like, wow, I at that price point, $13. If I paid $15 for this, I wouldn't even have batted an eye, and it would have been just fine.
It would have been worth it had you paid. And
Absolutely.
as a result, it's always harder on this scale for more expensive cigars. Like this was what, $12?
Yeah.
So for a cigar that was $12 to score above a 5, meaning that you wouldn't have been disappointed if it had been $14 or $15
Right.
that you paid for it. And that's that's pretty high price.
And does this
Yeah.
this may parallel to wine? I think like it's easier to go out and spend $50 on a bottle of wine and expect to get something good than it is to go spend under 20 and expect to get something good.
Right.
You have
You
to kind
might,
of search for those, right?
But if you do, that's going to be like, woo, ta-da, that's a fine,
what a
right?
great deal to find
Right,
a
right.
$20 bottle of something
Right,
that drinks
exactly.
like a $50 bottle. I understand now.
Yeah.
My whole, I was thrown off by the fact that, wow, that doesn't sound like a very good score to me.
But if you think
But that
about
sounds
it,
great.
But if you think about it, especially a more expensive cigar that scores under a 5 might still have been very enjoyable.
Yeah.
It just may be a little overpriced.
We've had a few
you know?
of those. If you put out an $18 cigar and it smokes and tastes great and everything like that, but you know, but it doesn't quite live up to $18. You know, I mean, it may be great for a $12 cigar.
Right,
you
right.
know, but that's
A lot of my sort of favorite go-to cigars are in the $8 range, right? So what I always do if I'm smoking a $12 or a $13 cigar, and I'm going to talk about it here on the show, is I go, how much better was it than one of my sort of regular $8 sticks? You know, was it really worth? If it's a $16 cigar, was it really? Would I really
Twice
rather
as
have
good.
that or two of my other ones?
Of
you
the
know?
8, yeah.
And so that's what can make it tough for a higher price cigar. Now, a lower price cigar, if you find a gem, it can score. In fact, one of the best scores that Ian's ever given to a cigar, he gave a 9 to a Black and Mild.
Yep.
Which is what, a 90
less
cent?
than $1.
Less than $1 cigar.
But here's what happens. You know, like anything else, sometimes these things are situational, you know? And so I went over to a friend's house where we were sitting around playing Cards Against Humanity and having whiskey and everything like that. And he had sitting at the place where I always sit, he had a Black and Mild sitting there as a little bit of a joke. He's like, I bought you a cigar. I was like, all right. And I smoked it and I enjoyed it. Is it a great cigar? Well, not when you compare it to anything that costs, you know, $7 or $10 or whatever. But for less than $1, and for the fact that I sat and enjoyed it, and it went fine with the whiskey and everything else, you get less than $1. I mean, that's a pretty high score.
right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's absolutely
So, you
true.
know.
Well, I kind of went. I didn't go the Black and Mild route, but I went a little less expensive, and certainly something that at least initially, didn't have really high hopes for. And I smoked the Old Henry pure breed Robusto. Now, let me explain. Old Henry is a brand that's owned by Holtz Tobacco in Philadelphia. They have a tobacco store there. They have a big online component to what they do, and I order from them online.
Okay,
sometimes.
I was thinking, I was mixing that up with the Henry Clay, and I was thinking
Yep.
those are actually
No,
pretty
no,
good.
Henry Clay is a different thing.
Right,
This
right.
is
Old
Old
Henry.
Henry, and on the band, on the cigar band, it's got a picture of a bulldog. Now, I'm an animal lover, and you know I particularly love dogs. But I'll just say, it has been my experience
When there's
that a picture of an animal on the cigar band doesn't usually translate to a really high quality.
Accepting Guardian of the Farm.
Yeah, okay, you're right. That's a little different. But no, generally, if you see a picture of an animal, and I don't know if Adam's got that picture up yet, but if you're looking at the video feed, you can see, I mean, that's a sort of not necessarily a cartoonish looking
See, now when I
bulldog.
look at that label,
It doesn't
that makes
scream
me
quality.
think that they named it after that because that's the wet fur might be what the cigar tastes
right,
like.
you're thinking El Cheapo, right? Well,
I mean, it looks
apparently-
like it.
Apparently, and I think the dog passed away before I was in Philadelphia because I've been to Holtz back when I lived in Philly in their store. But apparently, Old Henry was their sort of mascot dog.
Oh, so there's actually a story behind
That
it.
hung
then. That's
out
kinda cool.
in the store, and he passed away, and they decided to name this line of cigars after their, dearly departed bulldog, Old Henry. So they immortalized him with his own blend of tobacco and his own line of cigars. I'd seen these online in their thing before, and I always assumed they just weren't that good. But I recently bought a sampler of Jose Pepin Garcia's cigars, and these came in the sampler. I didn't even notice that.
Is it one of his blends?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So that's hard. That's a good pedigree.
Yeah, so Jose
You notice I
Pepin
use
Garcia. That's good. I see what you're doing there. So he apparently blended this cigar and produces it for Holtz, and they sell it in the store. Then I did a little reading on it, discovered apparently it's a big seller for them.
Oh.
So now my expectations are ticking up a little higher. Although I'm still looking at the Bulldog on the label, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know. So turns out not only are they made by Pepin Garcia, but they feature an Oscuro Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper and binder and filler from Nicaragua. So you're speaking my cigar language
on
there.
paper, that sounds good.
Pre-light on the Old Henry gave me a little bit of leather, some hay with a hint of cocoa, very pleasant on the pre-light. So I used a punch, and when I did crack the tobacco around the head of the cigar a little bit when I cut it. Probably more my fault than that of the cigar. But I went ahead and lit it up, immediately got a nice Nicaraguan blast of red and black pepper, not too intense, but enough to let me know I was in Nicaragua. And there was also a bit of sweetness, too, kind of a marshmallow, fluffy sort of sweetness that really kind of balanced things out. There was a nutty flavor as well. Altogether, it kind of made me think of hazelnut coffee, but without the coffee bitter.
Right,
Okay. So first third continued with pepper and marshmallow, a little bit of a hint of leather. Second third was much the same, although I did pick up a kind of a dried fruit note on the retrohale. Burn stayed nice and even, no construction issues. There were a couple of times during the smoke when I detected just this very quick papery note, and it made me wonder if I was like burning the label accidentally, but I wasn't. And both times, by the time I checked and then took another puff, it was
just gone.
Yes, it was just one of those momentary things. Not enough to make me dislike the cigar at all, but I did think I was mentioning it. It was gone so fast it could have even been just my imagination. I don't know. Final third ramped up in intensity. This was already medium to full. And by the final third, it was inching more towards the full designation. The Pepin signature pepper note was a little more dominant than it had been earlier in the cigar by the final third. But it was balanced out by this chocolatey cocoa flavor, and the flavor balance with that and that sort of marshmallowy sweetness throughout was really, I thought it was quite good. The Old Henry, like I said, definitely medium to full-bodied, big on flavor all the way through. Bottom line, it's a premium cigar. It's not a bargain basement, lawnmower cigar. It's definitely, it definitely could stand its own with the other Pepin Garcia blends, and the construction. Despite, having a picture of an animal on the band, the construction stayed spot on all the way up to the end. No issues from where I cracked the wrapper initially. Everything smoked fine. I would say particularly if you're a fan of Pepin Garcia's cigar blends, you should make sure you try this out. I think you can only get it from Holtz.
If you're a Pepin Garcia fan, pepper and chocolate, that's very much
this might be the least expensive example of a real premium Garcia cigar that you can find. Depending on the quantity you buy, the Old Henry Pure Breed Robusto is between $6 and $8, so let's just call it $7.
All right.
I enjoyed the cigar very much, and at that price point, I can go just a little extra. So price to quality, a 5.5, so batting just slightly above its price range. I didn't think it was, quite as spectacular as some of the other Pepin Garcia blends, but it's several dollars cheaper, so it kind of makes up.
There
for
you
it.
have it, ladies and gentlemen. Never judge a dog by his cigar label,
or something like that. All right, I do find myself though guilty sometimes of prejudging wines by what the label looks like on the bottle. I will admit that. It's sometimes there are bottles that are beautiful, but you think, I wonder if maybe they're trying too hard.
I taste things all the time
Yeah.
I'll notice something and I'll say to myself, this is a bottle that's meant to be on a shelf somewhere.
Right.
This is meant to be in a retail store. This is not meant to be in a restaurant. And it's clear that perhaps the owners or the winemakers or the producers of the wine have given that some thought.
Now, what do you think of the trend? And we'll get to tasting these wines
Yeah.
here in the next segment, which is really time to take a break. But what do you think about this trend to go? I mean, we all kind of know what the sort of elegant classic wine label looks like, but there's a trend that's cropped up, a lot
like
in recent years. Right, that's a perfect example. Right, but there's a trend that's kind of popped up in recent years where they've gone much more. I don't know. It's like they're not advertising a wine. It's almost like they're advertising, like a beer or a sort of more of a pop culture style thing. What do you, as a total wine guy, does that put you off at all, or?
I'm not. I've become oblivious to those kinds of things.
Packaging.
Yeah, it just doesn't mean anything to me because, first of all, it's expensive. It drives up the price of the wine.
Right.
And as gimmick as it might be, maybe it has a different closure or the bottle shape is something different. And I think that those are things that don't really affect the wine, but it may be indicative of the style that they make the wine,
Right.
If
the one that pops
through,
into my head there is 19 Crimes, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all labeled there, buddy.
Yeah. Right. No, it is.
Yes.
And that's better than the one that popped into my mind, which was Red Truck.
I think I saw that in a gift bag somewhere.
Well, here's the only thing I really know about Red Truck is it's a very interesting label with an old red truck on it, and you can buy it at CVS. That's what I know
Perhaps
about Red
that's why
Truck.
I've never seen it.
But no, seriously though, there are some wines and some more expensive, potentially more respectable wines. Maybe not on the super high end, but in that $30, $40 range, maybe that have gone with a more sort of pop art, pop culture design to.
I sold a bottle last night that had no label, but an old buffalo nickel glued to the bottle. That was their packaging.
And
and by the way, that bottle was $250.
Okay, so this is not a buffalo nickel.
No, but it's made by a producer who is very well known, and people in my business have strong feelings about this particular producer as well, and so I think
that he's respected, or this producer's respected.
He's known for a style of wine,
okay,
a specific style of wine that is a bit more consumer friendly.
Okay, that was so like he said that with such grace and tact, didn't he?
So I think if we're gonna boil this down to Buffalo Nickels, what it really boils down to is, once you get to where you appreciate wine at a certain level, the label doesn't really matter so much.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and then honestly, I'm shown wines all day, every day, and for the most part, those wines that are offered to me, that are shown to me, that are pitched, aren't available with any retail presence, and so, and it's just because, a couple different reasons. I can't compete at Rainbow Lodge. I can't compete with HEB or
Specs
Costco or
Costco,
any of those guys. You're going to find that much cheaper, over there. Secondly, I really want you, if you find something that you like and it's at the Rainbow Lodge, I want you to come back,
right,
and have it. Wow,
the fact that it's on your wine list,
exactly,
right.
And so I'm often not shown a lot of the wines for retail, and so people ask me all the time, "Oh, I'm at the store. What do I get?" And it's hard for me to.
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It's hard for me to say.
Yeah, it's.
But you can go by Rainbow Lodge and buy a bottle of wine.
You can. In fact, since this whole COVID thing happened, I don't even have to open the bottle for you. I can now sell it retail.
Right, because they loosened up some of the restrictions that way.
And more often than not, you get a little discount if you just take a bottle to go, not enjoy it at the restaurant, but to take it away. We can give you a little discount for that.
Awesome. All right,
that's an awesome way. To buy wines, Mark. I need a bottle or two for this.
Well, I do have several customers that'll call me up and they're like, "All right, so I'm having a party. I need a mixed case, or can you get me? This is my favorite wine. I need a case of this." And because I can get things that the retail stores can't.
Yeah,
right.
And that adds an exclusivity to it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And some, like some of these vendors that are coming to me, the wineries that they represent often don't sell and to a retail. Like, for example, no, not that. But anyway, but they're representing things that where the winemaker says, no, we have absolutely no retail presences on premise only, which means it's only available in restaurants.
Restaurants,
right?
Bars, right? Yeah.
Some higher end wine shops like Houston Wine Merchant on Shepherd will get access to those kinds of things, but for the most part, you're not going to find any of those things.
Interesting. All right. Well, so out of the ones we have today, then, are these all ones that would be difficult to find at retail?
One of them, I think you could find, this white one, I believe you'll be able to find.
But all of them are things that you could order at the Rainbow Lodge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe at other restaurants for people who are in other cities can look for these on the wine list.
Yeah, with the exception, I think, of the middle bottle. It's a Beaujolais that I worked with the winery to bring back. And so while there may be some other placements in town, I get most of it. So
okay, all right. Let's take a break. We'll come back and try some of this wine that I've been staring so longingly at during our first segment, and plus I think we'll make our way into a little beer from Jolly Pumpkin Artisan Ales. We'll be trying their Witbier. Plus, still to come, as promised, 15 great cigars under $8 for you to smoke anytime you freaking want to. We'll get to that list coming up. It is Smoking and Toasting, and we're brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Check them out.
Awesome.
Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting, the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And, of course, today, wine, as our Smoking and Toasting wine expert, Marc Borel, is joining us today. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great T-shirts on the web and sweatshirts and other hoodies and other things for cigar lovers. You can check them out online at MyCigarShirts.com. They are a sponsor of the show, so thank you for supporting them since they support us. MyCigarShirts.com, because
Cigars,
yes. So Cigar Aficionado released this very interesting list of 15 cigars under $8 for Labor Day, but they released it a day after our show, and Labor Day was like a couple of days away. So you smoke these anytime you want to. They're all cigars that scored really high in their blind taste test at Cigar Aficionado that are $8 or less retail price. So that's pretty good. $8 is kind of my sweet spot. So let's see if they have any of my faves in here. The first one on the list is the La Aurora 1903 Cameroon. Churchill, which they say gives off the aroma of freshly baked cookies. I got to go back now and have one of these. I have had one, but it's been a while. The second one is the Oliva Serie V number 4. It's a Nicaraguan cigar, scored 91, list at $7.10. I know you're immediately
it's
saying
hard to go wrong with Oliva.
I know you're immediately saying, wait, a Serie V for under $8, but this is the little short, sort of slender cigar, so you can get it for $7.10. Now, both of us have reviewed this cigar on the show, Ian, and as I recall, both of us liked it. It's the Alec and Bradley Kintsugi Corona Grande. Corona Gorda, I'm sorry. It's a Honduran cigar. It's $7.95 suggested retail, and if I remember correctly, we both liked it quite a bit.
So.
I think so. EP Carrillo's Short Run Retro 2021 Short Play. It's also a $7.50 cigar, scored a 90.
I think EP Carrillo, it's hard to find anything bad with that name on it.
It really is. Although the only one that I've had was when I got from JR or somebody, I got their sort of like a house brand from EP Carrillo, and I don't know if you remember, but Alan Denny told us, that's a short filler cigar, and it's really not very good. And I was, although I did say I got like a pack of 5 of them, I did find that they varied wildly. Like a couple of them actually were pretty good, and a couple were more of that.
The short fill cigars tend to burn real fast.
Yes,
too.
they do. And you get a little of that papery thing if you're not careful. La Flor Dominican's Airbender Poderoso. It's a Dominican cigar, $7.90, and it is Airbender is named after Lito Gomez, who owns the brand, after his love of kung fu movies. So
I think I reviewed that actually a while back.
Yep.
And, that's a great cigar.
The Perla del Mar Corojo Corona Gorda. It's a Nicaraguan cigar, $6.45, scored a 90 on Cigar Aficionado.
I don't think I've had that one.
Perla del Mar Corojo, Corona Gorda. The Alec Bradley Project 40 Maduro, 6.60. It's a Nicaraguan cigar, 89 points and $6.50. So it's one of those big ring gauge cigars. 6x60 is what the 6.60 stands for. The El Galan Reserva Especial Apuestos. I have had an El Galan cigar before, but I don't think I've had this one. It's Nicaraguan. 89 is the score. $7 is the price. The La Paulina Nicaragua Connecticut Robusto, also Nicaraguan, 89 points, $7.99. The Muat Baitfish. Muat is short for Uzi Weighs a Ton. Yes, and it's done by the guys from Drew Estate. The Muat phrase was inspired by a lyric from Public Enemy. And this is a collaboration between Drew Estate and Hoya de Nicaragua. And the baitfish size is a very small cigar. It comes in like a pack of small cigars.
Right.
But they're $5.50 a piece, and they're really quite good. A.J. Fernandez New World Connecticut Churchill, a Nicaraguan cigar, $7.90, scored an 89. I don't often smoke the Churchill, but I love the New World line. Yeah. The Punch Knucklebuster Toro. It's a Honduran cigar, $5.49. I've had and enjoyed the Knucklebuster.
I don't think I've had that one.
Good little cigar. The Big Payback Connecticut Toro. It's a Nicaraguan cigar, 88 points, $7. The Cloud Hopper, number 485. Have you had a Cloud Hopper?
I've not had the Cloud Hopper.
It's a $7.25 cigar, coming in at 88 points. And finally, and just goes to show you that you can get some big name cigars at a less expensive price. The My Father Le Bijou 1922. It's a Petite Robusto, so it's a small cigar, but it's wonderful. 88 points, $7.40 in their offshoot of the My Father line, which again takes us back to brand owner Jose Pepin Garcia, who just his blends are fantastic. And My Father is his son's basic tribute to him. So
that's awesome.
that's where the whole line came from. So there you go, 15 cigars, all under $8. Seek them out, smoke them, and let us know if you think they lived up to the hype from Cigar Aficionado. All right, wine time. Let's do this. This has been sitting here calling my name. So Mark and I talked briefly about what wines he was going to bring in. He didn't tell me which ones, but we talked about thinking about wines for the fall. So as we look at a white wine, what made you think, okay, this is a good one to think about as we go into fall?
Well, there's a couple reasons I chose this specific wine. First of all, it's made with a grape called Viognier, which is a varietal indigenous to the Rhone Valley in France.
I think you've talked about Viognier before.
Perhaps. This particular one is from California. Okay. In fact, I think most of the fruit comes from Paso Robles. Mm-hmm. This is from Minor.
Minor is the name of the wine.
Minor is the name of the wine, and the
vineyard,
gentleman's last name who makes it.
Okay.
Dave Minor. But the reason that I chose this specific wine is because it's not super crisp. It's not super light. It's not
Which
super
is what
fresh.
you think of more as a summer
exactly.
wine. Yeah.
It is white. So, I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And even when it's cold outside, a nice white wine does really well. This, in fact, I purposely poured it early to let it warm up slightly before we got here because of the texture of the wine. It has a bit more of a heft than you'd get from, say, like Sauvignon Blanc. Or,
right.
And it's very floral. It's very aromatic.
So we mentioned when you were pouring this, when you first popped this open, and we're pouring it, just how aromatic it is. Like it's huge on the nose.
Well, and it's again one of the reasons why I poured it. You know, you guys talk, and we've talked about this in times past that I've been here, about, you know, when you're smoking cigar and you get all the different layers and flavors, and we've mentioned how, you know, tasting wine and assessing wine isn't that much different. And so I wanted to make sure that I brought something quite aromatic.
It is aromatic. It's also, I love the way this wine presents its sweetness. It's not sweet in quite the same way as a lot of whites that I'm used to. It's more, I don't know, it's more just like this wonderful, subtle, sort of middle of the tongue, middle of the palate sweetness that is really kind of I almost want to say it sneaks up on you. It just.
But you get a tropical, like especially the front.
Yes, yeah.
Of your mouth, you get some of those like pineapple and papaya and that super tropicalness. But as it kind of comes down and it sits in your mouth for a few moments, then it rounds significantly.
There's kind of a warmth to it almost.
Yep.
I want to. You sort of addressed this already, but I mean, I never expected the mouthfeel on this is much bigger. Than you would expect.
A little more like a Chardonnay sort of a mouthfeel than a.
I hate to use the term
Pinot
because it might
Grigio.
not sound right, but a little meatier kind of. You know?
Well, and I think oftentimes the way that the wine is, its aging regimen affects its weight as well. You can get something that's stainless steel, and I'm going to talk a little later about different ways that wines can be aged. This does have some oak influence to it, but not a lot. It's not in your face oaky. It doesn't.
Yeah, and you don't
taste
get
it.
that sort of butteriness that you get with a Chardonnay. It's but it has some of the same mouthfeel, some of the same
and
consistency.
that's due to a fermentation process called malolactic fermentation, where it changes the acid from one to another, and that can give it somewhat of a butteriness. And while it does go through malolactic fermentation, it doesn't present that super rich, oaky, buttery. It's delicate and light and still viscous at the same time.
Yeah, it totally is. As it first hits your palate, you think of it in that sort of lighter Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio type of vibe. But then after the mouthfeel works with you, it feels more like something a little bigger, a Chardonnay or something with a little more viscosity.
You mentioned it's not a crisp wine either. So like the aftertaste on this lingers, but it's such a pleasant and warm and wonderful aftertaste.
Fruity, sort of appley kind of aftertaste.
And you also mentioned its level of sweetness. While it's not a sweet wine at all, I mean, this is not something that you would have for dessert. It does, the fruit on it gives it a feeling of it being a little sweeter and a bit more palatable than something that's bone dry like Pinot Grigio, for example. Another reason why I brought it, because it kind of warms you up and it fills you up.
I was going to say, this actually seems like it would be great with a slice of pumpkin pie, like something with a very sort of fall vibe to it,
So it has enough delicate flavors, but enough body to it that just I don't know. I can't stop drinking this thing.
Well, I've got a whole half bottle here left. So. we can crash this thing.
I like
here
your
easily.
attitude.
It is a really wonderful wine. What does a bottle like that cost? Is it expensive?
Retail. This is the one that you could probably find in the stores. You can probably find this for $30, $35.
Okay. And it's Minor is the name of the
Minor,
wine.
M-I-N-E-R. I don't know where the...
here, Ian, maybe you
I can't see where the cameras are right now.
Well, and I
have
my glasses off. So
I think we can do this. So it's a Minor, 2017. See, now that to me is a slightly more contemporary but very classy wine label. If we're going to talk wine labels. So I don't know if I'm getting that on camera or not.
I think you're getting a little of it.
Close enough. Wave it around.
I'll just keep moving it until
if you reach up and flip that around, I can take it. There we go.
Yeah,
now I can see it for next time.
All right. So, but that's great. I really,
it's really nice, and I almost didn't bring a white specifically because a lot of people would think that, oh, well, white wine, you don't drink that in the winter. You want something big and hearty and red.
But you could still be, having fish for dinner or something that just really...
And think what you mentioned earlier. Think of something that has been maybe smoked or grilled, blackened. Seafood would be great with this.
I bet.
And it's because of that little tinge of fruit on there that really kind of works with spice. And
yes, the spice was what I was thinking about when I said pumpkin pie. Just that little bit of pumpkin spice this would be really good to go with that. Yes. Well, that
this
is
makes
lovely.
me want to get a Rocky Patel, Connecticut with it.
Yeah, you could definitely get away with that.
You'd have to have something light that has like a nice flavor, but not overpowering.
My brain always goes to the champagne, the Perdomo.
10th anniversary.
Yeah,
the
10th
Perdomo's
anniversary
a good
champagne.
one.
Yeah,
I think I'd probably stay away from a vanilla with this, anything vanillin, but something with some like you said, some winter spices, some seasonings, even some heat would be great with this.
Speaking of vanilla spice, by the way, or vanilla's not really a spice, but vanilla flavor.
Are you not talking about the singer?
No.
Okay.
Vanilla Spice? No, I
Wasn't
didn't. I didn't like him.
Wasn't
all that
she
much.
one of the Spice Girls?
Oh no, I think we're crossing the streams there. Unfortunately, no. But when I think about vanilla,
She
which
only
is
wore white.
one of my favorite notes in some of my favorite tequilas. I noticed you wearing an agave pin.
Yeah.
Is that in? Is that just a favorite pen, or is there
It
significance?
is, and it's relatively new for me. I have dozens of pins, and if you join me at the lodge, you'll see me in a different one every day. My first trip post COVID or during beyond
wherever we are now.
Yeah.
Neo-COVID?
Was to tequila. And we've talked about this before. Maybe I don't know if we've talked about it on the air, but how I've been to tequila many times, and it's just a beautiful place to be. And I thought correctly, if I might say so, that if I were going to travel, I wanted to go to a place that was less populated, that had a smaller airport, that was easy to get to, that was and that's why I chose tequila. And when I went, March, I believe, I decided, and I visited a few distilleries, and I just enjoyed the city and ate really, really well. But in one of the local shops, I found this pin and decided I had to have it.
Nice little agave plant. I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Nice.
it. We haven't had you and
Perhaps
tequila.
for Liliana.
Yeah, I was going to say we haven't had you and Liliana in the room at the same time, have we?
We should. We should do that.
We've got to make that happen.
That would be fantastic.
That would be awesome. Yes, it would be one of those things
call
where I
it
would
the
just sit back and listen.
300th episode, that should happen. Huh?
Oh,
You know what I'll do? I'll have a special bottle. I'll bring something really nice.
Perfect.
If you want to do that.
So we'll look forward to that.
She just popped in too. So
We'll look forward to
Nice.
that to that meetup, because that would be a good one. Ian's opening our first can of beer. This is Jolly Pumpkin Ales. Jolly Pumpkin Artisan Ales is the actual name of the brewery. This is their Calabaza Blanca. It's a wheat beer. So I don't know whether we're going to need some sort of a palate cleanse between the white wine and the wheat
So
beer,
I'm
or
grinning
not.
because I project
Yes.
that these things will go famously together.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome. I love it.
oftentimes, a heavier beer doesn't really work with wine, but something like this, I think would be no problem at all.
Well, it'll be very interesting to. Oh yeah, so this has got almost maybe my brain just goes pumpkin because of the name of the brewery, but it's got almost like a little bit of an autumn pumpkin spice on the nose.
So this is Farmhouse Witbier Ale brewed with orange peel and coriander, and I'm super excited to see what you guys think. It's also oak aged.
So the first thing that I think of when I take my first sip of this is, are you sure this didn't come in a big bottle with big bomber bottle with lots of funky artwork on
and the cage on top
and the cage on top?
Right.
Exactly. But you poured this out of a 16-ounce can.
This came out of a 16-ounce can.
That's funky and wonderful.
I think I already drank a can of this to do quality control. Before I brought it on the show. Not today, but
I understand.
This is to me, this is outstanding.
I think so too.
It's such a bizarre beer and so outstanding.
I love that you get that sort of wild ale vibe on the tongue that kind of dances across the palate, but it doesn't ever become so dominant that it keeps the beer from being refreshing. A lot of wilds are very interesting to taste, but not as fun to drink.
Coriander's also.
But I think the acid too really helps keep that refreshing part of it.
Coriander in beer is also real sketchy because it can take over a beer real quick. So
I like this very much.
I like it, but not being that much of a beer person, I like because wine is sour. It's a lot of acid.
Yeah.
That's why this one, to me, I could sit here and drink this no problem.
Little sourness. Show the can to the camera again.
Oh, the can is beautiful. It's
Yeah.
like a lady looking off a balcony at a ship with the moon behind it.
Yeah, really, really a gorgeous, almost like a comic illustration artwork, but really, really well done. You would say graphic novel.
Calabaza
not
Blanca
comic.
from Jolly Pumpkin Artisan Ales. This one's outstanding.
So, did your friends, relatives, step relatives to be? Did they pick these up in stores? Did they go to breweries? While they were up there?
This one, I believe this one and the next one that we're gonna try, were bought by my cousin because like last time he was in town, I brought a few beers for him to try, Texas beers. So he sent back a couple Michigan beers, and then the third one, the stout, the one from I'm blanking on the name right now, but the Hoban Stout is
from Great Turtle.
Great Turtle. I believe that one. My brother, my soon-to-be brother-in-law, is they went to the brewery and had it there, and then decided to bring some home.
That's great. Love it. Well, thank them for us for.
This is one of the most interesting, and I drank the last can of this a few days back, and I just was blown away by how drinkable and fun it was.
I just want to mention to our to people who enjoy the show in parts of, we're in Houston, Texas. Houston has some amazing craft breweries, and anybody that wants to gather up some beers from your area, things we might not be able to get here, and send those to us, we will reciprocate by sending you an appropriately stocked box of great Austin, Houston, Dallas, Texas beers that we can get here. We are happy to do beer exchange. That's just a fun thing to do. It's kind of like having a pen pal.
Right,
you know, like a beer pal that lives over.
The beer exchange.
Oh, look, I got beer exchange box.
That's fun, and you get the donor on the phone and
yeah.
I love that.
Fun time. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we have more wine to try, and a part of today's show that I hadn't mentioned, there's a great list of 8 new bourbons to try. They didn't include the phrase "right now," but we might add it.
We can add it on there.
We might add it on there anyway.
How about
8 great new bourbons?
How about
to
we
try.
tried these 8 new bourbons, and you won't believe what happened.
Right now.
Click.
The click
Click here
right,
now.
the clickbait.
BuzzFeed. That would be if we got the article off of BuzzFeed, right? Yeah. All right, so we'll take a break. We'll come back with that. Plus, it's a short segment, but we'll do a little tasting anyway. Screw it. Let's have some more wine.
Taste away.
I'm ready. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, hand-rolled cigars, and today especially wine, as our wine expert, Marc Borel, has joined us. Marc holds court at the Rainbow Lodge in Houston, which, by the way, has one of the most, wonderfully exotic menus of any of my favorite restaurants. A lot of different kind of meats. Really very well curated.
Specializing in
menu.
wild game.
Right. So you've got wild game on the menu, but it's still a very chef-driven experience, and the way these are prepared is just wonderful. And do you still have it's like a where you can order and get several different kinds?
Yeah, so you can get that in 2 different courses.
Okay, right.
We have a little sampler that you can get as an appetizer that's got a couple little nibbles.
Right.
And we often do those en masse for like a group.
Right.
And then you can get what that's called the Taste of the Wild, and then we can get what's called a mixed grill. That's got
So that was what I had the last time I was
I've had
there.
that a number of times.
Man,
It's
it was
so
good. It's just to be able to try all these different kinds of meat and just contrast and compare, the texture, the flavors, the way it's prepared.
So
Wonderful.
when I looked at the menu and I saw the mixed grill, I thut to myself, okay, these people are problem solvers.
Right.
Because they know the problem I'm having right now, right?
Right, which is, what the hell am I going to pick what
So
what
I got
want?
the mixed grill, but they created a secondary problem. Because I thought if I get the mixed grill, I'll be able to tell what I like, and the next time I come in, that's what I'll get.
Right.
But I got the mixed grill again because
that
was
being
so
that being the secondary part.
Well, and oftentimes I'll ask people, all right, are you in the mood for meat today? Are you in the mood for seafood? I look at the seafood come in the back door every day.
Yeah, my
and
wife had the
looks
seafood
so
when we were
amazing.
there, and it was.
I often have seafood, for lunch every day. But people were like, I don't know, maybe I'll start with a little Taste of the Wild, and then have some seafood at dinner, or perhaps something backwards. But we have a group of ladies actually who come in and they drink champagne, and they have a Taste of the Wild as an appetizer, and they have the mixed grill as an entree. And then they finish it up with some of our bread pudding, and they do that every single time. They have the same thing. It's great.
I love it. Well, honestly, the mixed grill is just. I remember loving everything But I think my favorite was the elk. I really loved the elk. It was just such a wonderful meat flavor.
It's not super gamey. It's got just a touch of fat to it, but not a lot. It's really great for the next wine. I think it.
I was just saying, my mouth is watering just thinking about it. Or maybe it was the wheat beer. I don't know. But the next wine is a red. And why don't you tell us?
Very good.
About the.
Would you like my corkscrew?
I told you I know my wines. This I can definitively say this is a red wine.
Indeed, it is. This red comes from a region in Burgundy that is often misrepresented or thought of in a bad way.
Really?
This is Beaujolais.
So why is Beaujolais
well,
not
because a lot of people are thinking
cool?
about their grandmother's Beaujolais. It's this guy right here.
Yeah.
A lot of people are thinking about their grandmother's
Just the FYI.
Beaujolais. Yeah.
Is this how you spell Beaujolais?
No. So this is the region within Beaujolais is Brewing.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I've seen.
How do you spell Beaujolais? Where does it say it on there?
I don't. It may not actually.
May not? Okay, go ahead.
It looks like bourgeois almost the way it's spelled.
My point is that a lot of people think about the jug wine with the finger hole that
and
your
they
grandmother
think
had.
that when they think Beaujolais?
And they think that of Beaujolais, and Beaujolais is just stunning. Or they'll think about Beaujolais Nouveau. Now, the third Thursday of November every year, the Beaujolais area releases its newest, freshest, barely fermented wines, and it's meant to be a barometer of how the season
good,
of how
good
that
the season's
vintage
going to be. Yeah,
it's going to be.
I've had Nouveau and always really enjoyed it. I mean, there is a certain. I'm going to say this as if I know what I'm talking about. There is a certain young sort of youthfulness to the flavor, but it doesn't stop me from like really enjoying.
Well, and that's because in Nouveau the grapes are picked, just a few months prior.
Right.
So the 2021, for example, Nouveau comes out on November 18th this year. Happens to be my birthday, which, by the way, I usually take the day off on my birthday.
Yeah.
And drink champagne.
And drink champagne. And
yes.
I plan to travel. You guys know about Marc Fember, right?
Yes. I believe you explained this to us. So.
But this year, I'm taking a trip to Spain on the day after. So I will be actually working on my birthday, and I'm trying to. So for your listeners alone, I haven't said this to anybody else yet, but I'm trying to procure a large bottle of Nouveau since it happens. Beaujolais Nouveau Day happens to follow my birthday.
Right.
To share with those folks at the lodge.
Oh, fun. That'd be a fun night to go, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is Cru Beaujolais. As Ian mentioned, this doesn't say Beaujolais. It says Brewery.
Brewery, okay.
On the label.
French people, they spell things funny.
They do. But it's an area within Beaujolais that produces wine. Just like within Napa Valley, there are several different sub-appellations, like Rutherford, St. Helena, whatever. Within Beaujolais, there are lots of different regions, and Brewery happens to be one of them. And this is Cru Beaujolais from a producer called Château de Peru, which I visited several years ago to taste their 2016 vintage, which was stellar. And I found this particular wine that I loved very, very much. And I talked to the winemakers about having it. It wasn't at the time exported into the U.S., and it is now. And so we have plenty of it here at the lodge. It's a beautiful bottle, and I love it.
Have you tried yours yet?
I have.
So first off, it's a little punchy on the nose at first.
Yeah.
In a good way. It's a little big right at the beginning, and then when you take a sip of it, it's so smooth and delicious and gentle all the way across the palate.
My observation.
It's not what I expected at all.
No, my observation was going to be that when I first took a sip, that it was very pleasant, but I didn't get all that much from it. And then when I swallowed this finish, it's almost like it's a flower garden blooming on the palate. It's just so much flavor, so much like wonderful. It's a really, I would say, subtle in that way, because I didn't get, at least on the first part of the sip, any indication of what was coming. It kind of snuck up
as it
on
lingers,
me.
as it sits, and as it once you've finished it, those tannins really start to bloom as well, and you really get a little dryness.
Mark, I like to think that as much as you know about wine, when we start talking about it, we just sound like two cavemen grunting at you.
This is why I'm quiet when you talk about cigars.
Wine, good.
So, I do want to mention another thing about this particular region. Beaujolais is made with almost 100% Gamay grapes. The name of the varietal is called Gamay. And a lot of producers in Beaujolais will make their wine in a method called carbonic maceration. In other words, what they do is they cover the tanks and let the carbon dioxide that's released from the fermentation process kind of mix in with it. And so oftentimes you get a little funkiness in Beaujolais. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure if this actually goes through that process at all, because it doesn't have a lot of that funkiness, but there's a little there. And some of that has to do with just, indicators from the varietal, but this is one of my favorite wines.
This wine is wonderful. Now, and this is, you have plenty of this in stock at the Rainbow Lodge.
I do, and I brought this for a couple reasons, because this is first of all, fall wine to the max. This and your turkey on Thanksgiving.
Oh, I bet.
Any Beaujolais is great with those kinds of things. It's a cousin to Pinot Noir. And so it's grown in proximity, in Burgundy, in proximity to Pinot Noir, and so I think that's one of the reasons why it does so well. And it's just like the epitome of fall wines.
It's very interesting how the aftertaste lingers in the palate, because it doesn't linger on the back of the tongue pretty much at all, but around the outside of the palate, and it has that am I using the right words? Like kind of that tannic acidity kind of thing to it that makes you definitely want another sip.
Oh, absolutely.
I think to your point from earlier, like I was totally connecting with everything you were saying, but imagining that to Mark, you sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wine.
No, he actually did a good job this time.
This time. You caught that, right?
I learned good.
Yeehaw.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover, and I'm going to enjoy sipping this for a little while longer before we get into our next thing. But we've got some Old Nation Brewing Company New Orthodox M43. It's a New England IPA. That'll take our palates in a completely different direction.
That's going to be different, yes.
Yeah, and then, of course, we have drinking news on the way. And I want to get into this 8 new bourbons to try right now. Right now. So we'll get to that. Coming up, it's Smoking and Toasting.
What just happened?
No one is completely sure. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. We are the program all about craft beer, fine spirits, hand-rolled cigars, and wine, especially today wine, as I'm just loving this Beaujolais. Oh, my goodness. This is a really wonderful wine.
It's lovely.
Really wonderful. We are sponsored by and brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts and hoodies and all kinds of activewear for fans of the cigar, for lovers of the leaf, and for those who love them. Check it out at MyCigarShirts.com because
cigars.
Yeah. So, Ian, I mentioned this list that I had for you of 8 new bourbons to try. And I didn't include I said they didn't include right now because it wasn't in the headline of the email advertising it that I got from liquor.com, which I love. But when I go to the article, it literally says 8 new bourbons to try right now.
Nice.
So we always amplify that and say right now. But I thought since these were new bourbons, and because I know more about tequilas and rums than I do about whiskeys. So when I'm shopping for a whiskey, I do find that sometimes I get a little lost in the whiskey aisle. It's like, and that the specs that I like to go to, they've got an aisle for Scotch, and then it's got Irish whiskey on the other side, and then there's a whole bourbon aisle. And sometimes you're there and you're like, well, there's so many new things, but like, what do I even try? So here are some suggestions from liquor.com, a very good, well-respected, one thing I love about liquor.com is these aren't just the people who decided to advertise with them this month. They actually, curate a list of new bourbons that they think you should try. And
are there any price limitations on this list?
I don't. It doesn't say that there are limitations, but they do list the prices with each one. So we'll share that. So from Bardstown, they actually suggest 2 bourbons: the Bourbon Fusion Series No. 5 at $59. And the Bardstown Bourbon Discovery Series No. 5 at $130. They go on to say that Bardstown specializes in very complex bourbon blends. The first of the new bottles released in June 2021, Fusion Series 5, blends 3 Kentucky straight bourbons between 3 and 11 years old. And then the Discovery Series No. 5 focuses on old and rare bourbons, blends 4 whiskeys, 2 from Kentucky, 2 from Tennessee, ages ranging from 6 to 17 years. The flavors described as ripe, vibrant cherries over rich caramel and roasted marshmallows, and that sounds pretty good to me. And then number 2 on the list is Basil Hayden Toast. You're familiar with Basil Hayden,
I am
but
familiar
are you
with
familiar
Basil
with
Hayden, but I
Toast?
haven't had Toast.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's a $50 bottle, and they point out that Basil Hayden doesn't release a lot of new variations, new bottlings, but this one is the first permanent addition to their lineup since 2017, and it was created by Freddie No, who we've had a chance to meet. It was awesome. It's an interesting study they showed in how bourbon can be tweaked while still remaining within the confines of what legally makes it a bourbon. And they recommend it pretty highly. Now, this next one is in that slightly more up there price range. Blue Run Spirits 14-year-old small batch bourbon retailing for $200. Blue Run launched less like a year ago. This is a whole new distillery, but it was fostered by a group including a Nike designer, Facebook's first director-level employee, a hospitality executive, a political advisor, and a philanthropist. So that's an interesting group of people who started
from
distillery.
Kentucky?
Bourbon lovers, it's Blue Run. Let me see if it says where they are actually from. I'm not sure if it says. We can find out easily enough. They say bourbon lovers actually paid more attention, though, to another participant, which was Jim Rutledge, who is the whiskey veteran and liquid advisor who created this particular 14-year-old small batch that was released this July. According to its producer, tasting notes include buttery French toast cooked in a pan that recently fried breakfast sausages.
That's a little specific.
I love that.
I like that a lot, yes. Shored up by white pepper, tart Rainier cherries, and a pop of caramel. I love the way he writes.
Well, anybody who calls himself a liquid advisor is going to come up with something clever like that.
Right. I mean, for all of our specialists, who would we designate as the liquid advisor?
Docs.
I think probably true.
Docs is a pretty good one, yeah.
Yeah, I think Doc's, by the way, reached out. We may have to have him back on the show again because that's always an adventure. The first adventure is you never know what his hairstyle will be.
No idea.
And then the second adventure is what has he brought us that's so interesting to taste. Dickle Bourbon, $33. It's an 8-year aged bourbon from Cascade Hollow Distilling, released in June and bottled at 90 proof. It is a permanent addition to their lineup, created from stocks of whiskey selected and blended by Nicole Austin, the general manager and distiller.
Okay. I have 2 things to say about that.
Yeah?
One is that's the one that Chris Hart brought on the show last.
Oh, you're right. I thought I recognized. Yes, I recognize
this.
And 2
bottle. Is directly affecting sales. I have since then bought 2 bottles of it.
Okay, so smoking and toasting directly affecting sales. That's what I'm telling you. Sometimes it affects it like right after the show airs because Ian and I are on our way home and we stop in someplace and buy something. So you like this, huh?
Yes, it's quite good.
Yeah, I remember.
That's one of those bang for the buck whiskeys that you come across and you go, man, I have to buy some now because when people realize how good it is, it's not going to be
this price or available. Yeah, absolutely. The next one on the list is Epoch. Straight bourbon whiskey. It's a $50 bottle from Baltimore Spirits Company, a wheated bourbon made with malted rye, aged for 2 years and bottled at 100 proof. And then the next one on the list is Evan Williams, 1793 small batch at $20.
Evan Williams just fine.
This bottling is named after when they first opened their distillery on the banks of the Ohio River. Yellowstone, limited edition Kentucky Straight Bourbon 2021. I've seen Yellowstone. This is a $100 bottle. I've seen Yellowstone on the shelf. I don't know if I've seen this particular excuse me, this particular one, but I don't think I've tried Yellowstone. Have you tried Yellowstone?
I haven't.
Okay, I'll have to get us the bottle and bring it in. I don't know if it'll be the $100 bottle, but we'll have to try. Try something. This is the new offering from Limestone Branch Distillery. A more mature and flavorful 7-year-old and 15-year-old bourbons were selected by Stephen Beam, the master distiller, and they included a measure of bourbon finished in Armagnac casks, and it plays a proportion finished in barrels that previously held Amarone, an Italian red wine. Am I pronouncing that right?
Amarone, yeah,
Amarone,
it's a style of wine.
Yeah. So there are your new whiskeys, your new whiskeys to try right now. Did I make them all?
Right now. That Dickle is outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not very good. Don't go buy a bunch, everybody.
Smoking and toasting, directly influencing sales, we should say. So yeah, that's an interesting list. I always like when they do lists of new things.
Yeah.
And tell you a little bit about them, because the new ones are the ones you know really nothing about other than maybe
I like
the brand
that list because it's also not a list of unattainables.
Right.
Which that always drives me nuts when they're like, these are the best things you can ever have, and you can't ever have them because you can't even get
find them. Yeah, I know.
You know,
They're all sold out.
I remember I've taken a few of these kind of lists and written them down on like a little yellow pad and then gone to my favorite place. Do you have this?
Not
no.
a one.
Do you have this? No. Do you have this? I've heard of it. Yeah, okay. But there's so much out there, and that's the thing. There's so much out there, and stores, even big ones like a Specs or a Total Wine, they can only stock. They've only got so much shelf space, and some of that's got to be given to Jose Cuervo because they're a big volume seller, and so there's not as much. Some of it's going to be Jack Daniels because they're a big volume seller, so they've got to choose carefully, I think, on some of the others. And I love, one of the things I love finding, especially in the whiskey world, is when they've done a barrel selection. So I know it's something that I can only get there and only at this time.
Yeah.
That stuff can be kind of fun. All right, Ian, I think it's time for us to break into another beer. What do you got for us?
Oh, give me a moment. Let me get it out.
Oh yeah, see, keeping it nice and cold. I like that. We are. The next thing I think we're tasting is the Old Nation Brewing, Brewing. This is an IPA. It is called M43, and apparently they have several, letter alphanumeric designations for their beers. I'm not sure what they mean.
If you could feel how cold this can is, by the way, you're going to
wait.
love
Let me
this
see it. I don't see any Blue Mountains.
Oh, there's that.
Are you sure it's
says,
cold?
don't freak out.
How can you know for sure, Ian, that it's cold if it doesn't have Blue Mountains on it?
Sediment and what to do about it. And it recommends that you
roll it gently.
Or pour it gently. Either way. But I don't mind a little sediment in there. Mm-hmm. I even buy orange juice pulpy, so whatever.
Well, you're the man that likes the barley wine that has the chewy, sticky, chewy chunks in it.
It's delicious. And,
I don't like my beer
to stick. You can chew on it a little bit.
I don't want a little pulp, but I don't want my beer to stick to my teeth. That's all I'm saying.
Wait, are you complaining about stuff floating in your beer when you love juicy
I
IPAs?
Love juicy, hazy IPAs, yes. It's not the floating that I mind. It's the sticking to the teeth. If I want to do that, I will have peanut brittle,
So, the M43, New Orthodox India Pale Ale series. 6.8 by volume.
So New Orthodox, if I understand correctly, is at Old Nation Brewing Company. It's a series of beers that they do, and I think New Orthodox beers may all have a alphanumeric designation like M43. Is M43 like a weapon or a tank or something like that? I'm not sure.
I don't think so. Like an M4 is a rifle.
An M4, I know. That much I can figure out. Let me just see if I'm
Does
just
it have
Googling.
anything that says it does say right here, it says, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk.
Shocking.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What is an M43?
I think they totally stole that from the last beer can.
So from Google, which knows more about me than I know about myself, so maybe they have something to say about this. If you ask what is an M43, they say the Micro Four Thirds system MFT or M43, is a standard released by Olympus and Panasonic in 2008 for the design and development of mirrorless interchangeable lens digital cameras, camcorders, and lenses.
that has to be what this is named after.
So
no doubt.
No doubt that's what
No doubt that's it, right?
Well, I can tell you I like this beer already just from what it looks like. This looks like
there's no seeing
some
through
of
it.
my favorite
So New
very-
England India Pale Ale, and
very fruity, very citrusy on the nose.
it says haze is good on here. Keep cold and drink fresh.
Well, I will tell you, this is a complete palate shift from where we were.
Oh, yeah.
But once you give it time to do that, this is hazy and juicy and
that is
really
a palate shock
wonderful
from where
way.
we were.
Yeah, but wait till you get to your second or third sip, and then this starts to kind of take over your senses. There, it's great. It's fruity. It's citrusy. It's wonderful. It's almost sweet.
It is. The front part of this has enough maltiness, like hitting the front of your tongue with sweetness to I think kill a lot of the resin, because it's very resiny bitter to it as well, but not in a bad way.
But it doesn't sort of linger in a pine cone way on your palate at the end.
Nope. This
I
I'd
think
say
this is
is
spectacular.
pretty outstandingly balanced. You're making a face.
Well, this isn't your.
This
isn't
is totally
your,
outside of your realm of beer.
Yes, it's not unpleasant.
right.
I think that I'm a citrus guy, and so this works for me because of the citrus. I'm a bit thrown off of the texture.
Right. It's a fuller.
It's a little
mouthy-
orange juicy.
Yeah. It's got a fuller mouthfeel.
And if I'm honest, I was expecting. You mentioned pine. I was expecting pine cone. I was expecting super bitter. You know, when you said that, and it's not at all. It's. I don't think it's as crushable as the first one.
No.
But it's certainly a bit more complex, and I don't hate it.
Yeah. And to say it has that pine cone resiny bitterness to it, but it's so tamped down by the malt profile right up front.
It's a very well balanced beer, which you talk about this
and that
with
to
IPAs,
me is
right?
that's a brilliant IPA when you can balance that and make something that is this hoppy, because there's no doubt this is huge hoppy.
I would put this.
But you know, boil hops, Calypso, Amarillo, Citra, and dry hop, Citra, Amarillo, Simcoe.
I will tell you, I would put this in the same general neighborhood as Parish Brewing's Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah, I would have to say. So.
Which, by
and
the
you know
way-
what? I have another can of this left, so we might have to put those head to head. And just kind of see,
That would be
because
like a
this does
cage
remind
match,
me a lot of
like an IPA cage match. I love it. All
no
right.
hops barred cage match.
No hops barred. That's good. I like it. Okay, we'll be doing that on a near and future show. By the way, I wanted to give a shout out to the to Richmond Arms, which is a little British pub over
over off
of Richmond Ave. Adam, our producer, had put a little fantasy football league together. And we all gathered at Richmond Arms to do our draft because
They have Meridsu on draft.
Yeah, because doing a fantasy football draft is no fun if you can't like talk smack to people while you're doing it, right? I mean, that's the whole reason anybody does fantasy football is so you can just like trade barbs with your other fantasy football players.
So I saw a shirt once that said "Fantasy football is D&D for people who used to beat up people who play D&D."
That's exactly what it is. Except I was one of the D&D guys. I don't know how I switched over, so I got beat up both times. So no, but anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to the Richmond Arms because the first thing I was excited about was that they had Lone Pint Yellow Rose on draft.
Yeah.
But then they were out of it, so I was bummed. But then I found out they had Ghost in the Machine on draft.
And they have Meridsu.
And it was good. You've had the Meridsu there, haven't you?
I love Meridsu.
Yeah.
And the problem is Meridsu
because it comes in
like,
a fancy glass.
It's like 12%.
Yeah. So that's
good.
That is speaking your beer language, my friend.
Yes.
That's what that's doing. All right. Well, as is always the case when I am doing something, there is a leaf blower close by, and so this might be a good time for us to take a break. We're going to come back. We have one more wine to try. We have one more beer to try, and we have a little something we like to call drinking news. coming up in the next segment. And it does not deal with the leaf blower, but I may take the break to go out and deal with the leaf blower. We'll be right back.
Yes, well, with purpose.
Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting, all about craft beer, fine spirits, hand-rolled cigars, and delicious wines.
Translation, all about good stuff.
Yeah, all about the good stuff. Marc Borel, our resident Smoking and Toasting wine expert, who holds court at the Rainbow Lodge here in Houston, is on the show with us today. And, you know, we almost refuse to talk about wine unless you're here because we will just screw it up.
If you're in the Houston area and you're wondering what to do on a date or even a lunch date, the weather has cooled down to about 95, sometimes almost 93.
Almost
The
Arctic.
back patio there is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
beautiful.
It really is. And
like right in the city. Fantastic.
Right, you're in the city, but it does not look like you're in the city when you're on their back patio.
No, when you're out there, you feel like you're miles away.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's wonderful. You took your wife there for like an anniversary dinner, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, they treat us so nice. Well, you know, so the last time I was there, it was for Valentine's. We were a week or so
Valentine's,
late.
right? Yeah.
And we just happened to mention to the server, you know, they were like, first time here. I was like, no, I've been here before. My wife hasn't been here, and mentioned that it was, you know, our late Valentine's. And at the end of the meal and everything, they brought out a little Valentine's cake.
See?
It was absolutely just wonderful. They were so nice.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, they will treat
It's a special
you right.
place. You know, you think that after 45 years we'd get it right one day.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, and the other thing though too that occurs to me is like so I think of it a lot of times as kind of a special occasion place because it really is. Like when you walk in, you are transported to somewhere else, but you can just go there and have lunch. You know, don't lose sight of that.
Right.
Hundreds of people do that every day.
I'm talking about the me's out there.
And as the weather begins to cool off a little bit, that back patio is even more inviting because it's beautiful.
It got down
out there.
to 80 last
you can
night.
Smoke
I
a
just
cigar.
want to point that out.
Yeah, I know. Winter's coming.
That's a beautiful thing.
Winter's coming. Well, Ian, I believe the time has come for the what has turned into our show's most popular segment, which tells you something about the show, and I don't know if it's something positive. It's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Well, Drinking News, we want to remind everyone, is our segment of the show where we feature an actual, true news story, or at least a story we believe to the best of our knowledge to be true. As Ian says in the song, I got a story and I swear it's true. I mean, we're not. There's a lot of fake news out there, but we do our best to try to cut through that and bring you something that has at least been reported by something that's not called The Onion. That's the best we can. That's the best we can do. So, Drinking News may occasionally or often even be a news story about drinking, but even when it's not, it's always a story that's probably best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And by this segment of the show, we always have. So
Cheers.
It works for us, yes. Today's story comes from our Dumbasses in the News file. A Florida man.
I love it when it's drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
A Florida man got himself in hot water and almost got himself in actual water. He was in clear water, and he got picked up for DUI charges this week after authorities spotted his SUV hanging halfway off a seawall. Now, this will be one of those drinking news stories that is also most appropriately enjoyed with a photo. So Adam's got a couple of these he can put up, and you'll see them in the feed if you're watching on video. The picture really kind of
that'll get a cop's attention.
Really kind of makes the story. Yeah, Clearwater Police posted this picture on Facebook and said below it that Quote, officers were conducting a drunken driving investigation after the driver of this vehicle found a very unusual parking spot behind Pier House 60 on Coronado Drive. The Lexus RX was perched over Clearwater Bay at the far end of a sandy expanse adjacent to, but not in the direct line of, a paved parking lot.
So the only thing that could make that better is if the guy was sitting in there with the window down and a fishing rod.
Yeah.
I'm just fishing, officer.
There is a second picture. I don't know if it's come up yet, but it shows just how good a parking job the guy did. The 38-year-old driver was charged with driving under the influence, according to the Miami Herald, and was released on his own recognizance. This seems like as good a time as any to remind you that here at Smoking and Toasting, we do always encourage you to drink, but we never encourage you to drink and drive.
Hey, Uber's your friend.
Or attempt to park.
And
And that is your drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. So it wasn't a big drinking news story today, but I thought the photo was worth it.
Mark, you haven't been here for a drinking news episode, have you?
Once, okay. All right. So
In fact, you have seen this before.
If I remember, now I drink for a living, so I don't remember very well. But if I recall,
the point.
There might have been an alligator in the drinking news that I was here.
Well, when we first started, there were so many Florida Man stories out there, and a good number of them, do include alligators. But we've now been through a lot of those, so I have to search a little harder for drinking news stories every week. But again, it's like this self-fulfilling curse, because it's turned into a popular portion of the show. So if I take it away, we might lose listeners, and so I have to keep searching. So if you guys have any good drinking news stories, send them to me. I appreciate it. Your help would be greatly appreciated. It is a great time, I think, to start talking about fall wines, because fall is already arriving in some areas of the country and will be here in all of its 15-minute glory in our hometown of Houston.
And here in Texas, they're going to have, if they don't have it already, the new fall shorts line out, because everyone wears shorts in fall here.
That's right. Everybody does. And it's
just 2 inches longer.
Yeah,
yes, that's right. and the colors are slightly different, but yes.
Yeah, they're more fall autumnal
Pumpkin
colors.
spice.
Yes,
That's right.
pumpkin spice colors.
That's when the real tree camo turns to from their standard green and tan to the orange and tan.
Mm-hmm. Which sounds like a beer, but
that actually sounds like a joke, but it's not actually a joke.
That's exactly right.
Welcome to Texas.
By the way, the Denver Broncos and the Breckenridge Distillery in Colorado are teaming up for 2 whiskeys. One will be an orange whiskey and one will be a blue. They're bourbon blends, and Breckenridge is a highly respected distillery, and so if you are in the Denver area and you're a Broncos fan, you may want to.
Are they going to put a blue label on the bottle, or are they going to make it blue?
No, it's the label on the bottle. In fact, I'll actually show you.
Have you ever had
this is from the Denver Broncos website. I'll show it to
their vanilla
the
porter
first.
is an amazing beer.
Yep. And so that's what the bottles look like.
I see. Okay.
So good for Broncos fans. And let's face it, if you're a Broncos fan, you're going to need something to get excited about this year. It probably is not going to be the team that they field. So I'm just saying.
Are you saying they're not going to do the Super Bowl shuffle?
Yeah. No, most likely not. But they will. They'll be much more fun to watch if you enjoyed some of the blue or the orange Broncos. Breckenridge. So, Marc Borel, our wine expert, has brought along 3 wines. I don't know how you're going to top the first 2.
Okay.
Those were just exceptional. But
Challenge accepted.
But what is your third one?
He looks pretty confident.
He does, doesn't he?
So, I brought a crowd pleaser.
Oh.
This is from a region in Argentina called Pará Altamira, which is an area within Mendoza. So, and I wanted to specifically point that out. A lot of people will hear about Argentina wine and immediately think Mendoza, and that's because they make a lot of wine in Mendoza. But Mendoza, like we were talking earlier about Beaujolais and Napa, has appellated. There's lots of little areas within Mendoza, and they all deserve their own do, as far as I'm
There's a
concerned.
little pepperiness
This
on
is
the
from
nose.
Baraja Altamira. It's much, much higher in elevation. It is indeed Malbec, even though Malbec doesn't come from Argentina.
Okay.
So Malbec is a indigenous varietal of the Bordeaux region in France. In fact, it's one of the 5 grapes that are blended to make Bordeaux.
That's a word that's much more French in origin than it is.
Well, in
Latin
France, they
American
call
origin.
it Côte.
Oh.
C-O-T. And it comes from an area called Cahors, C-A-H-O-R-S. But in the late 1800s, there was this thing called phylloxera, a little bug that was eating the rootstocks. And what the French did was send trimmings and clippings of these Bordelais varietals to South America, merely to perpetuate the species. Well, they kind of took off, and these kinds of varietals, Cabernet, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Malbec, they all do really, really well in South America. And it just kind of went on. And so the South Americans were like, great, if it grows here and it grows here well, let's make some. And so they did. And that's why there's a lot of Malbec in South America. This is Malbec. It comes from a producer called Zuccardi. And we were talking earlier about the different aging regimens that wines can go through, stainless steel or in wooden casks. This is actually aged in concrete.
In concrete?
Yeah, they make these big concrete. Sometimes it's a big cube, and sometimes it's like an egg-shaped something or another, and it helps kind of move things around naturally.
Is it not like, I don't know, I would almost think it would impart something unpleasant to the wine.
Actually, what it does is it has a bit of
Chalkiness or something like that? No?
It allows some air to move.
Concrete
kind
is
of
Right, because
porous.
concrete breathes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but it doesn't allow enough air to oxidize it, but it does assist in the.
Does the concrete itself weep on the outside a little bit from the liquid inside?
More than
I'm
likely,
curious.
it's lined. There's not lined with a substance other than a coating of some sort. But still it will allow some transfer of air to be able to pass through. I don't see what it does. It keeps it cold. It keeps the temperature.
I was
Right.
wondering if it did like bleed a little bit on the outside, if it would make like an image of the Virgin Mary, and then like it'd be a whole other like wine makes image of Virgin Mary.
Instead
on
of
concrete.
Jesus on toast, it's
Right.
toast on the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is so dry, and I absolutely love it.
It is wonderful. I just took one sip, but I just wanted to comment on the nose. You were absolutely right about the pepper, but there's also this like grapey explosion kind of happening just on the nose that is just it holds such promise for the first sip. You know.
Yeah. Well, and we talked earlier, I think off air about its color, and how if you were to look at this, you might think that it is lighter in body than the Beaujolais is, but there's so much complexity. There's so much going on with this. There's that touch of pepper spice on the back end, that black pepper,
A little bit of a chocolate note.
Yeah.
So
So in the medium bodied reds, there is kind of a hierarchy. There's a Tempranillo, which is a little bit lighter. There's Malbec, which is a little heavier, and there's the Zinfandel, which is a little heavier than that. Still, all with typically, I'm putting everything in a bucket here. Typically with a spicy or peppery finish, and I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to Malbec, because it is medium bodied. It's kind of medium everything. It's this kind of catch-all of everything. This just has a little bit of a difference to it that I felt really interesting, and I love the way that this works, and it goes great with everything on a menu at Rainbow Lodge.
I was going to say, it seems like it would be incredibly versatile in terms of what you could pair it with.
Totally.
And same thing with a cigar. Like I think this would stand up to most things that weren't just totally full bodied.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got a good amount of.
Well,
like,
the previous Beaujolais that we had has a dryness to it, but it happens late in the palate, and then it doesn't sit on the back of the tongue. It kind of sits out in the outside of the palate a little bit. This one has this dryness that I absolutely love, but again, it doesn't sit in the back of the palate. It sits on the tip of the tongue and the front of the palate.
Right.
And then the back of the palate has this great warmth, and that's where you get that little spicy pepper and a few of those things. This is such, it's more of an experience almost That's I love that.
But I think it's really savvy the way that you picked up that the dryness, the tannin structure, appears in two different places.
Yeah.
Between these two different wines. Here, you're right. It's right up front.
It's right up front, yeah.
But you still get that grapey kind of fruit. It might even be a bit more fruity than the Beaujolais that we had before.
Yeah, but in a very dark fruit kind of way. I almost get a chocolate covered cherry on the retrohale. Just a real deep fruit flavor with sort of a cocoa chocolate vibe to it. That very rich. You know what I'm talking about when you get one of those chocolate covered cherries that is so rich that you almost like don't want to eat it, but it's so good. You know.
Well, there's wine dicks like me. I'll always talk about a color and how something might taste like a color, and people think that's crazy. But when you could actually tell the difference between, say, like blue fruit, black fruit. This has got lots of red fruit in it.
Yeah, and how many people haven't said that tastes a little bit green?
Right, of course.
That's a thing.
I was talking about shapes when it comes to taste. I say it has a very round flavor to it, or you know what I mean. Like I don't know if that makes any sense.
Round versus like linear and very
versus
sharp.
dodecahedron or something.
Yeah, although
like
I've never said something had a trapezoid flavor to it. So maybe there's only so far you can take that particular.
I've been called square a few times.
Pretty true. Although now I heard you refer to yourself as a wine dick. Is that an actual expression?
So there's. All right. Let me just say this. There's a lot of people who might consider someone in my profession a bit uppity. Okay? And I think that one of the things that makes me and the experience at Rainbow Lodge very unique is that I'm not there to judge you. If you want to drink the $6 stuff at Target, I'm going to say go for it. Would you like for me to get you a straw?
Right.
I'm happy. I'm just happy that you're drinking.
Do you want ice in your wine?
Sure. No problem. You want the $6 stuff to can it? I'm happy to do it for you. It doesn't for me. It's all about the experience, and I want you to have a great experience.
Right.
And so there are people out there who are hesitant to talk to the somm, who are hesitant to ask that person over. And so I give my servers a few cheats to help kind of get around that. But those people who do, and there are some people in town who I think fit that bill. But for the most part, Houston specifically, the sommelier community in Houston is very cordial and very open, and just really want you to experience.
But
something.
I think by title, for people who don't know anything about wine, I think by title that can be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
It's like when people talk to me about cigars, and then they, and they're like, oh, I don't know much about cigars, and then they find out that I actually have a show all about cigars. You can see their attitude, kind of like, oh, this guy is like at a different level, So but I think there's a little intimidation. But you're so friendly about it, and I love that. Because I tell people with cigars all the time, I don't really smoke cigars. What should I smoke? Well, man, frankly, if you like a backwoods cigar, get a backwoods cigar.
Right. Well,
don't.
The Rainbow Lodge though is a really interesting place for a guy like you to be, because it's got a rustic sort of a very approachable vibe. Now, what's interesting though is that the quality of what the chef is creating in terms of the dishes is almost unexpected, given the sort of because when you walk in, it's like
an old lodge,
comfortable old lodge.
Comfortable is the right way.
Right.
They really do work on that.
Right.
And the first line of our website says sophisticated, not stuffy, and we really want you to. Yeah, it's a bit more of an elevated dining experience, but it doesn't have to be. Tweezerfied plates, and
Right.
I don't wear a tie at work.
Right.
I want to be as approachable and friendly as possible.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, despite how much you know about wines, and the fact that you could be, the biggest wine snob that I know, you are so approachable, and it really fits with the vibe of what that restaurant is about. This is not a place that snooty people go to see and be seen. It's a place that where people go that really, really love, the whole culinary experience of what Rainbow Lodge is all about.
You kind of embody the whole the Texas Lodge vibe, in that, here's the deal: you walk in there, and when you're wearing your cowboy boots, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
When you're wearing your tennis shoes, that's okay
Sure.
too. Nobody's judging. I mean,
or you can walk in a three-piece suit with
and
with
feel
Bruno
good.
Molly's
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it really does feel comfortable. I've never walked in there myself and felt like intimidated by a place, but you got to walk in there first,
And
I
you'll allow,
love that back patio.
And you'll allow
I can't
people
say
to,
that enough. That back
you'll allow
patio is
people to
so
smoke cigars on the back patio, right?
We have a what we call the
An
lower
area?
deck.
Yeah, the lower deck. Yeah.
It's a bit further removed
So it's further
from
away,
where
so it
people
doesn't
are having
bother
dinner.
Doesn't bother the people who are
Yeah,
having
it's
dinner. Yeah.
over there on the water. It's a really nice. It's a
Such
really
a
great.
beautiful
You also
spot.
have like the little area that when you're done eating, you can take a little walk around the back.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It's absolutely fantastic.
A lot of proposals.
I was
Yeah,
just about
that.
to say, I mean this like in the best possible way, but if you were shooting your engagement photos, this would be the kind of place you would want to
Happens
go shoot.
almost daily,
I
yeah.
bet it does. Well, it's wonderful. And it's always so nice to have you here. Ian, we have one more beer to try, which
Yes, we do.
I almost, it's almost hard to just move away. This is really, really wonderful. And to me, this wine tastes like what I think of when I think of the Rainbow Lodge. This just seems like a perfectly suited to what you guys are all
And you
about.
picture sitting in a log cabin with a fireplace going and a bowl of buffalo chili. And
Exactly. A bowl of buffalo chili. I love that.
You just painted a picture that I want to be part of.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when the chili comes back. Every year.
Every year it's
Comes
a thing,
back
right?
every year.
How often does the menu change?
Seasonally.
Okay.
But even more, that was lovely.
That's a good sign.
Even more because
cathartic.
Chef Marc Schmidt is he's been there for ages, and he's really, really good about sourcing the right ingredients for dishes at the lodge. And what he'll do is he'll just day before yesterday, he pulled me aside and he goes, "Man, you got to try the fish special. Barramundi is back." And so he'll just pick up some ingredient, and perhaps it's some a piece of produce or something that we've grown. We have 2 gardens at the lodge that we
That you
source
tend
from.
and grow your own
Well, I don't,
herbs
but
and
yeah.
vegetables,
I'm in a jacket, man.
But you can walk out there with a glass of wine and survey the area.
You sure? You bet. Absolutely.
All right.
Watch
Well,
Pasquale pick some bees.
I was just going to say, when we think about chefs, largely because we've, seen the chef shows on TV, we often think about their genius as being how they blend things. And there certainly is, obviously, that's a big element of what they do. But I'm wondering if an almost bigger part of the genius of a great chef is knowing how and what to source. Knowing what ingredients to bring in, what vegetables, what organic greens, where to find the right meat and fish.
I was
and so
having
on.
a conversation with Chef yesterday about a wine dinner that I'm having in October, and we were kind of running back and forth ideas about the menu. And you're right, it's genius skill to have, because he can say, all right, so by the time that this comes along, X will be in season, and I can get this from this purveyor, and I'll be able to do this with it, and that sounds brilliant. Yes, do that, because it's wonderful, and every time the chef is allowed to do something like that and get real creative, it's a hit. I mentioned the wine dinners. We do a few in the spring and a few in the fall. And I give Chef the wines. He and I sit and taste them, and then he just comes up and does what he needs
He
to
just
with
gets
it.
it, huh?
So
And a couple
does-
days later, I get an email with a menu on it, and it gets better and better and better.
So
every
he
time.
tastes the wine first that you've
I think
picked
that's
out
important.
for this thing.
I think that's really important,
And
especially.
then he makes the dish to complement that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting, because as a consumer, I so often think about it the other way. I'm ordering this meal. I'm ordering this particular
wine?
food. What wine goes with
well,
this?
and to be honest, you're at a wine dinner. You're at a wine-focused event.
So the wine comes first in this case.
It
Yeah.
does, but we want to make sure that the food and the wine that they pair and that it has some sort of theme to it. And so the chef Marc is just brilliant when it comes to doing those kinds of things. And so I asked for samples. He and I sit down and taste. He also used to own a restaurant in Austin where he bought the wine. So I'm fortunate enough that he knows his wine as well.
That's great.
So he can pull flavors, just like you guys were talking about cigars. He can pull flavors out of the wine that I wouldn't think about, culinary flavors, and then create a dish with it. And next thing you know, it's just stupid brilliant. It's just amazing what he does.
Gotta love that.
That's the genius.
It's funny
we were
because
about.
that's almost the exact opposite of what we do with the whiskey sniff.
Right.
Which, like, have we ever told you about our whiskey sniff?
Yeah, I think you invited me. I couldn't go, but
Yeah, so it's the event that we put on that was inspired by how Ian chooses what whiskey he's going to have with a particular cigar.
So I start a cigar, and then once I'm about 3/4 to an inch into the cigar and I have it in my palate, then it's as simple as going in and popping the top on my whiskey and giving it a smell. And you'll smell what goes with that because it's in your palate. You'll immediately, like, you might go, that's okay, but you'll find one that goes, yeah, that's the one. It's pretty nice.
Well, and you find whether it's cigars and whiskey or wine and food that there's bookends of ways to do that. Sometimes it's complementary, like the vanilla in this goes really great, and the vanilla in this bourbon.
Right.
And then sometimes it's complete opposite, like we were talking about the acid in that beer, and how great that would go with something that's like really spicy and
so
rich.
I like to think to back up what you're saying, this is just my own way of saying it, is I like to think there's flavors that kind of meld together, complementary, and then there's ones that wrap around each other or work around each other and can work the same way, like the yin and yang are not the same thing, but they're within the same circle versus blending something together. It's kind of an interesting.
Well, I'm just going to speak to this because I was polishing off this bottle of this last wine a moment ago. Did not know how that would work with this stout, and the answer is wonderfully.
So this stout is interesting in a few ways. This is the one that my future brother-in-law picked out. This is a Great Turtle Brewing Distillery Hoban Street Stout, brewed with real coffee beans. It says on the front. We're used to that because we got real ale. That's one of the best coffee stouts in existence. But I love what they say about this because at first sip, when you taste this, I think like my first taste of this is it's got a bit of a thinner mouthfeel than I was expecting.
Okay.
But it says right on here, made with fresh roasted espresso beans, light-bodied stout, goes down easy on a summer day. The espresso adds a little pick-me-up in the late afternoon. I think they know exactly what they're doing on this.
I was going to say, I think it's very well described for what it is. It is not one of those big, heavy stouts that just, has the big, thick mouthfeel, but it just bombards you with flavor. You get so much on the palate. It's
and the
crazy.
coffee's good.
It's prominent too, the coffee. And when you mentioned stout, as a beer layperson, I think a beer that you drink with a fork. That rich, viscous.
So this is especially a little surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much lighter.
Because this is very light. This is lighter than most porters, like as far as the mouthfeel and body goes.
And there's more carbonation than I expected, which normally in a stout would really be off-putting to me. But in this case, it seems to really work.
I think it works with the coffee. I think it really kind of gets the coffee going around.
Agreed. Let us
well,
see
now
that.
I don't
Let's
have to make
can.
an espresso later.
That's right.
It's got a turtle sitting, like chilling out against a lamp post with a cup of coffee.
Is Hoban Street, I'm assuming, is that where the brewery is?
It's actually on Main Street. But apparently Hoban Street is
spelled like tequila
somewhere on
Hoban? I'm
Mackinac.
thinking.
Sorry?
Hoban. Hoban.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, Hoban Street.
Got it. Yeah.
But I love the turtle.
Who doesn't love a great turtle?
Yeah, he's got a lot of personality going there for a turtle. Well, that's terrific. So
Yeah, it says 7452 Main Street, Mackinac Island.
What a combination of amazing flavors and sensations we've been able to stumble across here. This is one of those shows where I keep thinking I've found my favorite thing on the show today, and then I keep going back and going, well, I don't know, maybe it's that. A lot of really, really great stuff. I don't think we've had anything.
250, no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back and wrap things up. Smoking and Toasting. It is show number 250, as Marc pointed out. We are thrilled to have made it this far, and like Ian said earlier, we're halfway to 300.
Halfway to 300.
And we'll be right back.
School of Liberty.
Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. It's our little program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, hand-rolled cigars, and great wine. The good stuff, as Ian says. And we certainly have had some good stuff today. Big thanks to our resident wine expert, Marc Borel, who, by the way, knows a little bit about cocktails too. I think I may have mentioned at the top of the show. We were out celebrating Brazilian Independence Day earlier this week. My wife's, one of her closest friends is a very close friend with Marc, and so we were all out having cocktails and enjoying ourselves in a really deserted Brazilian restaurant. But we did our part.
Actually, pretty decent caipirinhas on
the drinks.
Brazilian Independence Day.
The drinks were very good. They didn't have an impressive beer menu, but they did have Shiner Bock, and they put it on ice for me to keep it nice and cold.
They give you a little container.
They did. You know what they brought? They brought like the base of like a big cocktail shaker, and they filled it with icy water, so that when I poured the Shiner Bock into my glass, I could put the rest of the bottle into the icy water in the shaker. I'm like, this
that was
gotta remember
really,
this one.
Was a nice touch.
That was very nice. But I have to say, we really enjoyed the cocktails, and it was fun. And I didn't know about Brazilian Independence Day as another drinking day on the calendar, but it is now marked there permanently on mine. So
I didn't know anything about that either. I'll have to put that on my calendar.
See you next September 7th.
We all do Cinco de Mayo, right? We all do. We all do the normal drinking holidays. So what is the biggest drinking holiday?
Oh, it's got to be St. Patrick's Day.
I would think, yeah.
Is it St. Patrick's Day? Is that bigger than Halloween?
Or Thanksgiving.
Halloween, I don't know.
Well, Halloween's pretty big.
See, when I was a club DJ, when Halloween fell reasonably close to a weekend, if it was even like a Thursday, we were going to print money at the bar that week. It was just going to be crazy.
I would think, too, though, Thanksgiving night's always busy because everyone just got out of dinner with their family. They're like, I need a beer.
Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving's big because you get Thanksgiving Eve, because everybody comes home to see their parents and then they want to go out and do something. You get Thanksgiving night because people have been with their parents all day and they want to get out and do something. And then you got Friday and Saturday. So it's always big. But as far as actual drinking holidays,
it's got to be St. Patrick's Day.
You think St. Patrick's Day?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to.
I mean, I think it just kind of depends on the region. Their places, there are areas in the country that celebrate different things at different times.
Well, I think we want to go on a quest to make Brazilian Independence Day a more important drinking holiday across the United States.
Challenge accepted.
I was thrilled to go out and purchase.
So if there's time, there's just the tiniest of stories. There's it was maybe 15 years ago. I was invited by a friend to this party at a restaurant that I don't even know if it's still there near the Galleria, to go to on this day, and we went, and they were making these glorious magical drinks that they called caipirinhas, and I sat there and I watched the bartender, and I asked what was in it. I took a picture of the bottle, the whole thing. Then I ordered all the gear and the kit, made caipirinhas at home, and every year, and then since found out that it was Brazilian Independence Day. Now, I understand that the Brazilians don't really celebrate their Independence Day.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, okay, another day for them. And I know this because I have a very good friend, Luis, who now lives in Portugal, who I would celebrate with him. And he's like, it's not that big of a deal here. But any day that I can drink cachaça is a great day for me. And so September 7th gave me really great excuse to do that.
I love it.
Your abilities to justify are fantastic, by the way.
It's what I do for a living, sir.
It's fantastic.
And he's very, very good at it, isn't he? Well, Marc, thank you for being here today. And
my
we
pleasure.
want to also say, by the way, thanks to our guests from last week. The Ladies of a Libation were with us last week, and we had Chris and Laurie from that company,
so
and
fun.
they brought Old Forester.
Old
Forester, wow,
They're so great. Those ladies are great.
They're so much fun. So thanks to them. Now next week, Ian, we do not have a guest scheduled. So next week we're going to do something we've never we've never really rolled up our sleeves and done this on the show before.
All right.
But next week, you and I are going to talk about how to make the perfect whiskey smash. And we're going to bring the ingredients in.
I have smashed some whiskey in my life.
I have smashed some whiskey as well. I mean, we're going to bring the ingredients in, and then you and I will actually, right here on the show, make a whiskey smash. And then Adam, our producer on the Wheels of Steel, will judge which one of us did a better job.
Oh, see, now my bartending skills, I'm going to warn you, they're very specific.
Well, mine
I have a very specific set of bartending skills. Like sometimes I'll pour whiskey into a glass, and when someone says, do you have a mixer? I'm like, yeah, here's 2 chips of ice.
I understand. Well, my bartending skills are what I would call questionable. So the idea, though, is that I actually have a recipe how to make the perfect whiskey smash.
Okay, so we're going to use your recipe.
If we can do it, that anyone can do it. So that's the plan.
All right. We may have to try this with a couple different whiskeys.
Well, I was going to ask you if you had an idea what whiskeys we should go to. If maybe you wanted to bring something
the
from
aforementioned George Dickle, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
I mean, I've been a fan of it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk about that.
Rye might work well with that.
I think we should at least try one rye.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I have a barrel rye.
You do.
Yes, that's awfully good.
It's got your name on it.
No. There you're talking about the Angel's Envy rye.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing that for cocktails. That's a. I'm happy to share it with you, but that'll be sipped, my friend. I'm hoarding that. That was the one Ian got me for. Was that my birthday? Was it Christmas? I don't remember.
Christmas, I think.
Christmas.
Yeah, I went to
to
Kentucky and I got.
It's just
at the
so
brewery.
good. Yeah. But I do have a barrel rye though that I could bring in.
All right.
So anyway, so we'll talk about this during the week. But next week we'll be working on how to make the perfect whiskey smash, and we'll be sharing this recipe with you. So anybody that is going to be like at home during the show, if you want to make one, along with us, we smashed at home. It'll be a lot of fun. So, Marc, thank you for bringing again such wonderful wines. You never disappoint.
That's my pleasure.
And I just want to encourage people again to go and ask for Marc by name at the Rainbow Lodge here in Houston, and he will. I promise you, he will help you select the perfect wine for whatever dinner you're going to have, because. It's like he does it for a living. You know?
I should consider that.
That's career path 101.
How about that?
All right. Well, thank you again for doing this, Ian. It's great to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here on the show. I'm going to call it a day here, I believe. Although I will lift my little cup here and toast you, my friends.
Cheers. Oh, we all have the same beer.
Cheers, y'all.